Hello, everyone. Good morning. Some of you might remember me from previous seminars here. If you do, that's great. If it's my first time seeing you, it's very nice to get a chance to speak up here in front of you. I'd like to thank Michael again for inviting me here to do this. I'm always excited to come here. And we're going to go ahead and get rolling right away. I appreciate the introduction. I'm a computer guy. I've been working with local government since 2013. I really enjoy it. I've had a great pleasure doing so, and I'm going to kind of skip through this because I've realized I've got more slides than I have time, so I'm going to try to make this as quick as possible.
Joe.
Ooh, yes, that's way better. Look at this one. All right, so there we go. All right, that works better for me. Yeah, you'll have to bear with me. My cat died yesterday. That's the appropriate response. Thank you. Has anyone seen Snuggles the Dead Cat before? Anyone been in one of those classes before? You have? You get what's going on? Okay. All right. Normally, my normal day job is to show you a picture of a dead cat. And then I walk over and say, oh, my cat just died. Isn't that awful? And the audience goes, oh, and they make that, that lovely reaction. And then I give it about 15 minutes worth of air. And then I say, are there any other pet owners in the room? And someone raised the, let's do this. Any other pet owners in the room? All right, yeah, what's your pet's name, sir? Finnegan. All right, that's a very specific. Anybody else got a cute pet name? Monka, all right. Normally, my day job is to then give it a few more minutes and say, I used to use Snuggles as my password for everything. Have you ever used a pet's name as a password? And then that individual will say yes or no, and then I'll say, oh, is your password Finnegan, or is your password whatever? That's during my social engineering exploits. I don't have time for a full, proper social engineering class today. But what I'm going to talk about are some of the safety concerns I have when it comes to social media and local government. Let's do a little bit of a exercise. I'd like someone to volunteer for just a short bit of audience participation up front. Anyone in the room extroverted, social, kind of bubbly? I'm looking for that smiley person. If you don't know it's you, ask your neighbors. They'll tell you. Can I get one of those? Can I get one brave hand? There is an iPad raffle. You can't work for government. I'm seeing a lot of smiles coming from this kind of corner over here. One participant. I just need one. I will stand here for 45 minutes until I get a participant. Are you coming up? All right, great, perfect. Here we go. Fantastic. What's your name?
Mike.
Mike. The two government names are Mike and Bob. Remember that. Okay, Mike, I'm going to have you come on over here and stand and face the audience. Now, what I'd like to show you today is that artificial intelligence is never as good as a room full of humans. This is a very simple exercise, Mike. All I'm going to do is I'm going to whisper a word into Mike's ear, and Mike is going to use his face to make the appropriate emotion. And for those of you that can't see it, I think this is going to work right. I might need an IT guy. I think. Yep, okay. What emotion do we think that is? Correct. All right, we're going to try two more. Very good. All right, we're going to try one more. This is very specific. You've just asked how he's doing, and he's about to tell you how many days he has left until he retires. Round of applause for Mike. Yes, Mike, thank you very much. That was easy for all of us. We can all obviously tell human emotions. Even if we're not that good at reading people, I can still tell a frown is a frown, a smile is a smile. I can still generally read someone's emotions, even if I don't think I'm that socially gifted. It's very easy for us as humans to understand what another human is saying without hearing any words. But how good are the computers? So that was our audience participation. Thank you, Mike. They're getting better. What are faces starting to look like in 2019? This is my wife. She has the new iPhone. I couldn't be bothered. It's a lot of money. And this is what she looks like. Let's see if I can get it to work. Oh, yeah, there we go. This is also my wife. And I don't know if you can hear it. Oh, it's a shame. She's making really funny noises. This is what she looks like when she's having a good day versus a bad day. She asked me if I could include a more realistic photo, so I did. She also sent me that one. And I don't have Snapchat, but my wife insists upon putting on the little faces and little filters. And they're okay, but this is all done through a technology that we call facial 3D mapping, and it's becoming more popular on these things. And what I'm going to talk to you a little bit about today is the effect of that and what that means for us in this room. Normally, people at a certain point say, so what, who cares? I don't really want to go into nerdy technology things. Well, you're in my room for an hour, and if you want credits, you're going to go through it with me. So, generally speaking, it's my job to kind of stand up in the front and talk about these things and ask these questions that are a little bit more difficult to find on our own. Let's take kind of a few seconds here and look at a few patents that Snapchat, or Snap Incorporated, has filed within the past year or two. They filed this patent, which there's actually two of them we're going to look at today. One of them is for facial 3D modeling, which is really kind of cool, and the other one I'll get into in a second. So you take a look, and they've actually got a patent that's allowing their end users to scan their face and create a total 3D model of that individual, which is super cool. But they're also patenting things like this, which says, what's this all about? Well, we're going to take that data that we're collecting off your phone, and we're going to put it on our servers, and then we're going to make that data available to third-party buyers. Who else would be interested in a model of your face? Well, let's take it a little bit further. They've also now got emotion recognition modules. This is fantastic. The computers now are able to tell whether that face you're giving me is a happy face, a sad face, an angry face, a nervous face, a dislike face, and all under the guise of it's letting you put puppy ears on. Imagine things get a little bit further. I have a little bit of homework for you. There's a website called Steal Your Feelings GS. It's a campaign by Mozilla where they actually walk through and explain what big tech companies are doing with this type of technology. Imagine, if you will, you download an app and you think the point of that app is to put puppy ears and a pig face and a T-Rex on you, and then you can send those pictures to your friends. And in reality, the entire time, every time an ad comes up, it's judging how positively or negatively you respond to that ad. What emotional responses did you get? Did you see a male or a female character? Did you prefer the male or the female character? Did you see one race versus another race? Did you prefer positively or negatively between one or the other? Anyone starting to catch the drift of what they can do now? Imagine watching a political campaign ad through your phone and your phone being able to tell how positive you were towards that message or how negative you were towards that message. That is the era we are starting to walk into. And I can go on a little bit to explain. I'm going to just read a little bit of a touch. Well, we'll skip over reading because I hate reading from a PowerPoint. Again, who cares? Normally, that's the objection I get. People are still a little bit like, all right, so my phone can tell whether I'm happy or sad. So can everybody else. Why does that necessarily matter? Well, let's take it a step further. The upcoming image is going to be political in nature. Knowing your day jobs, you should be able to handle it, but I wanted to warn everybody anyway. Not a safe space at all. I wasn't paid for that. That's not happening. Now, you look at this image. I don't particularly care which side or in middle part you fall. Doesn't actually matter. CE Union will work for cash, regardless of the Democrats, Republicans, Independents, Libertarians, anybody that's in office. If the PO's signed and the check clears, I show up. Now, imagine if I could put this screen up, and what I didn't tell you was I installed a little camera up on the stage somewhere to gauge audience reaction. And then that audience reaction actually ran a little bit of Python script. And those scripts were able to tell how many men were in the room, looked at the picture for what time, and what their emotions were based upon what their eyes did when they looked at each face. Did anyone consent to that? I didn't do it. That's expensive. I'm not bothering with that. But that's the type of world we live in. And it's not just fancy apps on your phone. There was an advertisement found at a pizza shop that crashed and restarted into Windows, so it opened up command prompt to execute the original code. And the passerbyers were actually able to see that the pizza shop had been gauging audience attention and interaction to the ad based on demographics using facial recognition software. Now, luckily, we don't carry cameras around in our hands all day. And luckily, no one makes a ton of money off selling better cameras every year. That's why he's smiling. It's not just those devices, too. Every once in a while, I get asked about the Ring doorbells. Are they fine? Yeah, they're great. I know contractor friends of mine who have them. They're wonderful. But you also, at the same time, you got to remember, Amazon has a ton of money, and they did hire, through Ring, a director of facial research, even though they say that's not what they're using it to do. Why would they hire a director of facial research if that's not what they're doing with it? Amazon, in general, can be a little creepy lately. They're coming out with a plan that's just going to let you swipe your hand over a scan bar, and that's how they're going to track you as a customer at Whole Foods. So they're going to take a full representation of the veins inside your hand, and they're going to use that to map you as like your customer ID. So when you go to Whole Foods, you can just carry your food to the scanner, swipe your hand, and keep walking. If you haven't realized that we're in 2019 and the technology is even starting to scare me a little bit, that's kind of the nature of where this class is going to go. Another thing that really bugs me now is that Facebook has started turning on facial recognition by default. Let's do a little survey here. How many of you in the room, by show of hands, have a Facebook? All right, take a look around. We're a decent portion of the room here. Now, of those people that said they have a Facebook, how many of you have the Facebook app on your phone? Okay, a decent amount of hands. That's not bad. This is the third one. How many of those people use the Facebook app to upload photos? All right, so this is maybe a third of the room, maybe a little less. Now, how many of you knew that when you give the Facebook app access to your photo roll on your phone, it will go through your photos, upload a copy of them to their servers so they can find friends who might also have a Facebook account so they can suggest who you should tag? And you consented to this? No, that's a big no there. See me afterwards, we'll get you a refund for your Facebook. There's little things like that that we don't realize are starting to happen. Now, because you're all accountants, you probably know what's the big buzzword in tech and money right now. Data analytics. Anyone ever heard that one before? Anyone in here ever familiar with Power BI or what Microsoft is pushing right now for their huge data analytics? Yes, everything is becoming a data point. What we're going to kind of explore a little bit today is that on social media, the primary product is sitting right here in the room. All Facebook, all Snapchat, all Instagram, all of it exists to aggregate data to advertisers. And so many more products throughout our day, as we're just wandering throughout the world, are starting to do that as well. It's no longer just our likes and interests. They're actually capturing our faces and our emotions to be able to tell how we feel about something. Could you imagine sitting through a political ad on your TV and that person who's running for that office now knows by your face how you feel about each of their points? That's mildly scary to me. If you like the people that are in office, you think, well, maybe they're not going to use it that way. If you don't like the people that are in office, you might think, well, it's 1984, and it's going to go back and forth like that. All I know is the technology is continuing to increase. So let's talk a little bit about some of that data we're freely giving up to these companies every day. Anyone in the room ever checked in, let's say on Facebook, checked in at a location, uploaded a photo of yourself, used an app to share your face, used an app to modify your face, uploaded any data like a photo or video that has embedded GPS, which, by the way, your iPhone and Android turn the GPS on by default on your camera. So if you haven't turned your GPS off on your phone camera is embedding GPS in the photos you upload. Send a message to a friend or engage in a voice or video chat. The worst classes I've ever taught are Oprah classes. I hate them. You were at one, I think. I see a couple people in the back that were actually at one of my Oprah classes. I hate them. And one of the primary things that bothers me is with Oprah, there's almost no limit, it seems, to what can be given out. They want access to everything. I had an attendee at one of my classes legitimately tell me that they had to give out evacuation plans for a school through an Oprah request under order of a judge. They denied it first, and then it went to court, and then a judge made them give out evacuation plans. If you're shaking your head or feeling disgusted, yes, there's probably something wrong there. And why do we object to that? Because as rational individuals, we know there's certain things that are meant to be kept private and we don't want to give out. However, and I don't think this is because there's any malice or bad intent, as a rational individual, I watch my wife on a daily basis send more information to third-party companies than she does my way. I'm not complaining, I'm just stating a point. So let's think about it a little bit further. Has anyone in the room ever taken one of the following types of Facebook quizzes? Which Disney princess are you? How many Marvel characters can you guess correctly? What special star sign are you? Or which partner are you most likely to attract? Anyone in the room ever taken one of these quizzes before? Maybe you don't want to admit it, so you just shake your head quietly. You don't actually have to raise your hand. We don't need to talk about it publicly. It's okay. Why do those quizzes exist? Let's take it another step further. All quizzes from Facebook are data mining. Can I get a show of hands in the room for people that love Microsoft Excel? All right, in this room, I was kind of expecting that. Good job. Every quiz on Facebook ends up somewhere in a giant Microsoft Excel table. Let me rebrand them a little bit for you, a little bit better. Which Disney princess are you most like could really be translated to if Pandora was launching a series of charms this fall and they got an agreement with Disney to be able to license their IP, which charm are you most likely to buy? That's why the quizzes exist. No one, and go ask this yourself, have you ever met anyone in their spare time that decided, you know what, I'm going to create a Facebook quiz? No. They're usually coming from marketing agencies that are looking to get information on demographics. Because what does Facebook provide? The best demographic profile an advertiser could ever ask for. They know your name, your age, the city you work, the job you have, your friends, your favorite beer, your favorite sports teams, movies, everything. Your entire political, social, religious, every concept that you share, the advertiser gets access to. So they know if they want to hit Democratic males from the ages of 25 to 50 in this part of New Jersey, this quiz returns the following results. It's very precise. There is no other more precise tool that exists to get this type of data collection. And the data collection is it's the new gold panning. Every service, everything that's designed, whether it's Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, whatever it is, all of it is about turning you into a data point. I remember things got so bad a couple years ago. Did any of you ever go to the movies and you saw a Google commercial before the movie? Anyone ever see that before? A couple years ago, Google actually started putting commercials in the movie theaters where they reminded people, oh, we're good and we like you and we care about your privacy. I was about to go see a movie, I had my cherry Coke, and I watched a Google commercial. And I was thinking to myself, why is Google spending the money to advertise in a movie theater to tell people that they're good and they're not evil? Does anyone know what Google's company slogan was in 2015? Don't be evil. Who said that? Gold star. 2 more, I'll let you leave. Now, does anyone know what they did to their company slogan in 2015? Got rid of it. 2nd gold star. 1 more and get out. If a company's slogan was don't be evil and they drop it, what does that tell you about that company? Why do you think they had to create a PR campaign to put commercials in movie theaters that says, we're not here to spy on you, buy another Android? And look, I'm not going to play the Android Apple game. See me afterwards, we can talk that. I like Apple because they're a little less creepy, but they're still pretty creepy. I'll tell you about one of my favorite creepy situations. Anyone in the room ever go to like an Applebee's, a Chili's, or a restaurant that's got one of these on them? The Ziosk, Red Robin has them. They're the credit card payment machines at your table. You know why those exist? I was at a developer conference in Malvern, PA, held by Microsoft, and they brought one of their senior Azure SQL developers in. And the customer they were showcasing was Ziosk. And they said, using these credit card machines, we can track at an unprecedented level, never seen before, the eating habits of Americans and people all over the world instantaneously through our dashboard that we provide at Azure. What does that mean? Did a little bit more homework, because all this is public. In fact, it's their marketing material. In fact, they're kind of proud of it. What does this mean? Every time you go to one of these restaurants, whether or not you're a loyalty member, if you pay with a credit or debit card and you use the same one consistently, what do they now know? What time you arrive, how many people you arrived with, what do you buy? Do you get the appetizer? Do you not get the appetizer? Do you play the games on the screen? Do you not play the games on the screen? How many people come at a party with you? How often do you request refills? How often until you're ready to pay the check? What's the total time till the completion of the sale for you? And if they send you an email next Thursday for a $5 burger, how likely are you to return? The restaurant now knows this about you. Just using that machine, even if you've signed up for nothing. Fantastic for them, I've started using cash. It's creepy. The only person I want to know the intimate things about my life to a level that makes me uncomfortable is my wife, and yet so many other people now know it without my consent. I didn't sign up for this. I didn't do a terms of service. They didn't sit down and print out on the receipt, hey, listen, by the way, you're now a metric we're using to send to our marketing company to sell you a $5 burger, which we're still making a profit on. Sign here for that. There's no opt-out. It's just a part of it. It's just now a part of doing business and going to a restaurant. It drives me a little crazy to think to myself that all these things that I liked doing, my Facebook account, all these other things, are just using me to get information. And like the people in the room know, I am just a line on an Excel spreadsheet of 10,000 for another Excel spreadsheet of another 10,000 for another Excel spreadsheet, stacked and stacked and stacked, filling databases somewhere where we're all turning into essentially data points. I don't like that feeling. I don't like the idea that something is free because what I'm selling is a part of me. And now some large corporation has access. Don't get me wrong. Do I think any of these things are evil or inherently bad? No, and we're going to talk about that today. But what we have to remember is that these products and services are not there for our benefit. They're not trying to make healthy communities. They're not interested in helping you get elected in your next campaign. They're not interested in helping you during an emergency response scenario. They are interested in figuring out how to best present you to an advertiser to make money. And that's what we have to remember. So as we go throughout this class, we're going to focus on that at this point. So now at this point, you might be saying to yourself, all right, I probably want to give up some form of social media, but maybe not all of it because I still have family on the other side of the country or somewhere I want to see. But you're at least debating how much time you want to give to Facebook. That's probably good. But you might be thinking to yourself, well, how does this apply to government? Don't worry, I've already thought about that. You're getting your credits. But moving forward for the rest of this class, one thing I do want to talk about is this. I challenge people often to try to take the 30-day purge. What's the 30-day purge? The 30-day purge is, can you try, and just give it a try, to not use Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, or any other form of social media for 30 days? Now, if you're noticing mild anxiety, might be a sign that the purge is a good idea for you. You don't even have to delete them. Just don't do it for 30 days. I tried it. My aunt called me and asked if I was okay. Family actually reached out to me directly and said, are you all right? What's going on? Why are you mad at me? I had to explain to them, I'm just taking 30 days off of social media. People didn't understand it. Legitimately try it. Signs you might need a 30-day break. If you've ever stood up and patted your leg to check to make sure your phone was there when you're holding it in your other hand. If you've ever gotten a phantom vibration and stopped a conversation to check a phone that wasn't there or was off, you might need to take the break. I love these things, but I hate them. I genuinely hate them. I have to turn them off at the end of the night because what happens? You start getting the buzzes, the notifications, the inputs. Here's what I'm going to suggest. Try not using social media for 30 days. If you don't have a problem with it and it doesn't actually bother you, keep using Facebook. If those 30 days are painful like a withdrawal, maybe that's where you want to have a discussion to how impactful is it to your life. So why am I sitting here lecturing you about taking a 30-day break? Because here's the fun fact. Social media is becoming addictive. I work with a group of psychologists. I am their tech guy, of course, and one of the things that I get a chance to talk about with them was a couple years ago. I want to say 2016, I started doing seminars and classes on social media. And one of the things I started asking them was, is this a real problem for our primary customer, which was children? And across the board, I got the same answer. Yes. Social media is becoming an addiction for a lot of the younger people in our communities. One of the things I'd really like to talk about today is the dangerous sides of social media in our community. Imagine this, you're 13 years old, you're starting high school, 13, 14. Does everyone remember what it was like to start high school? How many of you wish you could have skipped it? I do. I would love to have erased that 4 years from my life. I'd be such a better person at this point. That being said, I remember what it was like. I remember the influences I had in real life. Now what they're facing is they're entering a new social sphere. Their parents are handing them a cell phone with no parental controls on it. I had one parent come up to me after a class and say, "What's the Tinder app?" And I said, "Why? Why are you asking?" She said, "It's on my 13-year-old's phone." I said, "Come here, let's have a chat." So I pulled her outside, and from every class thereon, I've recommended parental controls on phones for children. If you don't know how to turn it on, Google it or see me after class. I don't ever want to have that discussion again. But that being said, I did ask her, and she said, "Well, you know, my kid's going into high school. They've got a Facebook account now. They're chatting with all their friends. And of course, it's impossible to monitor all these things because once they get that cell phone, even if you lock the apps down, the internet browser's still on there and they're still able to log into the websites. Inevitably, kids are going to enter the social media sphere whether or not we like it." So they get into it, and they're in these new situations, and they're meeting a whole bunch of new people, and they're going through stress that they've never gone through before. And suddenly, the clock gets turned on for these things called hormones. Now, most of us manage that well. Not everybody does. So they're in this new environment with all these new feelings, and now they have this new social sphere. What begins to happen? A child uploads a photo. The photo gets 6 likes. They get happy. They upload the next photo. It gets 7 likes. They get happy. Psychologists and psychiatrists have studied this, and they actually see the release of dopamine during this. Does anyone know what dopamine is? It's the pleasure chemical in the brain. What else releases dopamine? You get the same effects gambling. You get the same effects when drinking. You get the same effects in a few other activities. So they start to get that dopamine, you're starting to, am I painting a picture here? They start to get that dopamine release, and then what happens naturally to every child? If your parent is not a celebrity or so filthy rich that you can make yourself a celebrity, you hit a plateau. And what happens? Suddenly, their photos are only getting 50 likes, 49, 46, and even a 14-year-old can do a little bit of basic statistical analysis and start to see, I've been trending over the past 30 days at a lull here and I'm not getting higher. So either they get more progressively advanced at their ability to take a gram, or they just accept the plateau. Now, what happens when you build up dopamine and hit a plateau? Everyone in the room that's ever met with someone that struggled with some form of addictive tendency knows that at a certain point they can take it so far and the diminishing return effect starts to slip in. They either need to get progressively more of it or the same thing no longer feels as good as it used to. So imagine seeing this in a 13 or 14-year-old who feels isolated in a school of 3,000 and has 200 friends on their Facebook and posts 6 times a day, but is getting the diminishing return effect and doesn't understand why or how to deal with it. Whole new level of business for psychologists. They love it. I mean, they're making a ton of money off of it, don't get me wrong. But it is genuinely a scary thing. So I do want to talk a little bit about today as government officials, as government officers, what are the things we can do to bring awareness to this, to bring awareness to what these technologies and tools do to a community? For example, one of my favorite audience participation things, which I will not make anyone in the room do, is to bring someone up front and tell me, listen, would you mind sharing with the class everything you feel today, your political interests, your religious interests, pictures of your face, your family, your house? When I start asking people to share the things that they would through Facebook, Snapchat, and Instagram, just directly in front of a room, people go, I don't know, that doesn't make me feel comfortable. Well, pull out your phone. Let's see how many friends you have, because you're already doing it right now anyway. What's the difference? A little bit of awareness, a little bit of education can make a difference. And with the younger generation that has a tendency to overshare everything, it might be a good idea to remind them that the rest of the world is watching. So I'm going to go ahead and go through the rest of these slides as fast as I can, because I want lunch probably more than you do. Elected officials love Facebook during campaign time. I'm going to just breeze through some of the stats here. Everyone thinks that it was the Trump campaign that really started with the Facebook thing, with Cambridge Analytica and all the polls to figure everything out. Actually, marketers took note during the Obama campaign itself. 2008, a huge database was collected. A ton of people were advertised to, primarily on Facebook. What's the benefit of advertising through Facebook? How much does it cost to send a Facebook message? Nothing. How much does it cost to send a group post? Nothing. It's extremely cheap. Once you've hired the marketers, a lot of it costs nothing. Direct mailings, we know how expensive that is. A Facebook group costs nothing to make and nothing to talk to. So it's extremely cheap. I'm going to just skip the Barack Obama. So there's a lot of cost-saving benefits, and of course, there's a ton of analytics. No other campaign in history before the Obama campaign knew exactly how many people were interested in them, were probably going to vote for them, liked the message points. They were testing things they were going to say on a campaign trail through Facebook to gauge the analytics to see whether or not they wanted to say it when they actually got out there. It was genius. And every campaign since then has copied those tactics. Because why wouldn't you? Because it's so cost-effective, so analytically beneficial. It's amazing. So I've seen it everywhere. I've actually assisted as a technical consultant on a few campaigns. And Facebook is definitely the first place people start going to grab people. And then usually what happens? Well, after the campaign, they switch over to the township page. I am not going to start a discussion on Oprah and Facebook. I did a webinar a month or two ago where that's all we talked about, and I answered questions on Oprah for like a half hour. But I will say it is causing a bit of a nightmare. So let's talk a little bit about something that blows my mind. Facebook is used by 1 out of 4 people in the world right now. That's a lot of people. The stats are 68% of Americans use Facebook. Of that, 74% visit daily. Of the people that use it, 96% of them are using it on a mobile device. 43% of the users get their news from Facebook. That should scare you. Because what's the Facebook money model? You click on an ad, Facebook makes money. So they write headlines that are sensational to get people to click them so that the ad money can start flowing in. If you're getting your news from Facebook primarily, consider stopping. That's all I'm going to say. How does this affect the social media user? It's not just the young people. In general, there's been a couple studies that are published recently about the effects of social media. And for brevity and the sake of time, I'm going to skip over reading some of them and just keep going. Essentially, what we are seeing is that social media is advertised to create what? Community, togetherness, bring people together. Have any of you looked on Facebook recently? How many of you feel more brought together with your high school friends, neighbors, colleagues, and coworkers when you read your news feed? I spend a good portion of my time on Facebook blocking messages I don't want to see from people. I have not seen it become a tool to grow community. What I have seen it do is be a tool to end up alienating and bullying. One of the problems I have with it is we do need to be aware of the safety of our communities. I have a collection of terms that I surveyed before teaching these classes, and I asked people, what do you think of when you hear social media. Some of the terms they say are feedback loop, tribalism, toxicity, anonymity. And I kept some of the other ones off because these are the common theme that I'm hearing now when people talk about social media. A majority of teens have experienced some form of cyberbullying, not just on Facebook, but on all these other platforms. And I have a couple stats and stories in here, I don't want to go too far into it, that really got to surprising me. Young victims of cyberbullying twice as likely to attempt suicide and self-harm, study finds. Now, that's flashy and a controversial study, and I would like to see more work done on it, but just the fact that the type of study like that is being published already scares me a little bit. I do want to touch on one issue that bothered me a little bit, and I don't want to go too heavy into it. I might skip the slide. I remember reading an article about a 12-year-old girl in the state of New Jersey that actually attempted and successfully committed suicide because she was being cyberbullied by her classmates on social media platforms. Other girls were literally sending her messages like, you should probably just kill yourself. Do I think that's criminal? Absolutely. Do I care how old they are? No. Would I love to see them prosecuted? Yes. But I don't have the power to do that. What I do have the power to do is recommend this. I see a lot of townships that love using Facebook for really good things. Emergency management. If there's a bridge down, if there's a school closing, if there's something going on, the emergency management teams have all prepped and practiced and run their DR scenarios and how to respond. That's a great thing. I've helped build those before. I've actually helped build and write social media policies for townships. I love it. I love when people get engaged in their community. But what I really fail to see is an active stance on cyberbullying, is an active stance against the negativity that can exist. Here's what I usually find. People question to me, look, how do I just suppress or block those comments? How do I go to a page and make it so they can't comment? How do I stop people from having dialogue? Well, at the end of the day, we never really can. Facebook will help us to stop comments on pages, but it won't prevent people from messaging to each other. It won't prevent people from making connections. It will not stop cyberbullying. It is not in their best interest. You might think that's counterproductive. Well, of course it's in their best interest to stop cyberbullying. Again, if they're taking people off their platform, what do they have less of? Data metrics. Their primary line of business is to make money off of as many people as possible by selling them as a group as data. Our primary responsibility is to serve the people in our municipality, in our county, in our township, in our state. I would actively encourage everyone in this room to go back to their social media coordinator, to go back to whomever it is that runs their Facebook page, and have a serious discussion about, are we doing enough, are we doing anything to identify and combat cyberbullying that could be taking place? Because if we're building a Facebook page and we're using it, which remember, is not a right, this is not an established thing, you do not have to have a Facebook page. Once you turn it on and open it up, what type of conversations are brewing? What type of harassment might be there? What type of cyberbullying may exist? And is anyone checking on our local schools? Do our schools have programs for this? I'm seeing a lot of more schools that do. People are becoming aware of the issue. But I did want to make it something that we kind of focus on, even if just for a few minutes today. I get this asked all the time. How do we deal with an aggressive citizen that's on our Facebook page? What do they all say? The same things. They don't like us. They didn't like the people before us. They're not going to like the people after us. They think we make too much money and spend too much of theirs, and every decision you make, whether they like it or not, they're going to tell you you did wrong. How do we deal with aggressive citizenry? What I remind people, and this is a rule, a standard, something that we would have to make uniform, is when you get that individual that starts commenting and posting on your pages and platforms with that aggressiveness, can you delete it? Not necessarily. Because now we fall into an Oprah issue, something that we don't have clear set standard from the Treasury about yet. So could we delete those comments? No. What do we have to do? CE Union and myself, Dave, and our partners officially recommend when you start dealing with that negative person that immediately starts attacking, do only one thing. Have a standard canned response that says, please contact us directly. Here's our phone number. our email, or our address to come see us in person so that we can talk to you about your issue. Never, ever, ever publicly engage someone who's throwing harsh negative comments, because you know what it does? It gives them a platform. It gives them a platform and the attention on that page. Always have a canned standard response that asks to pull it and take it offline, because the last thing you want to get caught up into is a whirlwind of negativity. I've seen it go pretty bad pretty quick when the intern who's got access to the Facebook page isn't checked and is able to respond and say whatever they like. Don't feed into that negativity. What I'm going to recap with today, and I'm going to turn this over to John. I'm going to let everybody get out of here so that you can go ahead and do your lunch. 1, remember, these social media platforms aren't there to serve you and serve your community. They're there to make money off of your community. 2, there is such a thing as oversharing. You can keep certain things to yourself, and these apps that we're using to track our faces, where we are, our location, our time, our activity, our heartbeat, our sweat rate, all of that data is being mined. And 3, we're creating these communities to give out public information, but there's also little people inside these communities that aren't always seen. If we're going to have a Facebook and use social media in our townships, make sure we have some type of safe, responsible way of supporting our teachers, supporting our government officials, supporting our responsible adults to identify cyberbullying, cut it off as soon as we see it. Ladies and gentlemen, I am so thrilled to be here again. Thank you very much for your time. I'm going to turn it over to John.